Part 50. A Sledgehammer Breaks into Pirates. Author, Zippo. Chapter 491. Carrying the grumpy little lowly runty out, Orgrim looked at the other little guys and asked in a funny tone, "What's going on?" Yamato said sheepishly, "The fight started." Orgrim rolled his eyes and said, "Of course I know there was a fight. How did you meet, and how did the fight start?" As soon as he finished speaking, Runty struggled and shouted, "Put me down. If you people dare to bully my brother, I will never finish with you." Orgrim stopped carrying the little guy Runty and threw her to the ground. As soon as Runty landed, she moved her body and looked ready to continue. But this guy Peggywan, he quickly grabbed Runty and said, "Misunderstandings are all misunderstandings, sister, no one bullied me." Runty, this guy, grabbed Peggywan's head with his backhand and clamped it under his armpit. Then he hit his head with his fist. As he hit him, he said, "What are you afraid of? I saw it. As long as I'm here, no one can bully you. You just like to bully me the most, okay? Let me go." Peggywan struggled and shouted. However, it seems that this boy did not get the ability of the ancient species spinback dragon. After being held down by his dragon girl sister, he couldn't resist at all. Everyone looked at this with some amusement. A pair of siblings, then Robin said, "Mr. Orgrim, it is indeed all a misunderstanding. We were wandering outside, and there was a fruit seller at the stall in front. Yamato wanted to buy too. And found that this kid seemed to have been staring at the fruit stand, so we kindly wanted to buy him one too. As a result, he seemed unwilling to accept gifts from others, so we talked to him a few words, as if his sister was far away. Chu saw it and thought that there were many of us and we were bullying this kid. Without saying a word, he came up to fight with Yamato, and then, it just became like that." Orgrim laughed when he heard this. Runty, who was hammering his brother's head, was also stunned for a moment, looked down at Peggywan, and asked, "Is that what happened?" "That's right, she's right, that's what it is, no one bullies me except you." Peggywan struggled and shouted. Runty hit Peggywan on the head with two fists again, and asked unhappily, "Then why didn't you tell me earlier? I didn't even have a chance to speak, and you started fighting." Peggywan said helplessly. "You are an idiot," Runty scolded first, and then lectured, "If someone wants to buy you fruit, why don't you? If you don't want to, you can bring it back to me to eat." Peggywan felt helpless. "I just wanted to save some face, couldn't I?" Runty's character is very straightforward. After figuring out the matter, she recovered from the dragon girl's state and said to Yamato without hesitation, "I'm sorry. I misunderstood." Yamato turned his wolf fangs. He put the stick away and said a little embarrassedly, "It doesn't matter." "Then let's go." Runty nodded at Yamato, then grabbed his brother's head carelessly and wanted to leave. Xiaopei, let's go catch fish. We can eat fish in the evening. I'm so hungry." Runty grabbed her brother and said. Peggywan struggled to escape from Runty, and then said unhappily, "You are a person with abilities, you can catch any fish?" Runty's face changed, and she grabbed Peggy again angrily and said, "I want you to catch fish for me." "I don't want it, it's me every time," Peggywan wailed. Orgrim looked at the pair of living treasure siblings with a smile on his lips. "Hey, you two," Orgrim shouted. Peggywan felt excited all over. Unlike his sister, although Peggywan was young, he was very sensible and recognized people. He knew that this boss was the top pirate, a ruthless character who was often in the newspapers. At this time, the boss suddenly stopped them, and he felt guilty. But before he could speak, Runty turned around angrily and said, "What are you doing? Didn't you see our siblings talking? Also, who are you?" Peggywan was about to be deceived by his brother. "My sister was so frightened that she cried, 'Sister, my biological sister,'" Stop talking. Gee ha 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 ha, Orgrim laughed, and then said, would you like to go eat fish with us tonight? Runty's expression changed slightly, as if there was saliva wanting to flow down from the corner of her mouth, but soon, her expression remained the same. He said angrily, no, we will catch it ourselves. I don't want to catch him, retorted Peggy Wan. Ha 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 ha, deep-sea elephant tuna cannot be caught at the beach, but it tastes very good. Orgrim said with an evil smile. Runty's initially irritable expression suddenly turned into one of surprise, and she asked, really, why treat us to a meal? Are you a good person? Who are you? Sister, did you really not recognize it? Peggywen asked in a panic. What do you recognize? Who is he? Runty asked with some doubts. It's Mr. Hammer. Hosgarot Orgrim. The king of the night? Peggy Wan quickly said it again. How can it be? Who doesn't know that the Lord of the Night never wears clothes? Runty said impatiently. Orgrim was completely stupid. What do you mean I never wear clothes? But if you look carefully, today's Orgrim is indeed very different from the usual Orgrim. It was different. First of all, he did not carry a hammer, and secondly, he was not as wild as usual. He was wearing a pair of trousers and his upper body was bare, without any worries. Today, he was wearing a suit and ties, and he looked very classy. Mainly because Master Chewie was in a good mood these past 2 days, and he planned to meet with the big guys today, so on a whim, he bought a suit to wear. As a result, it's not right? Even if I change my clothes, you shouldn't recognize people this way, right? But Orgrim didn't care about anything with Runty. After explanations from others around him, Runty finally confirmed one thing. It turned out that this serious-looking guy was really a pirate boss. However, after clarifying Orgrim's identity, Runty didn't seem to have changed much. He still looked carefree and fearless. Orgrim took the group of little guys and first went to buy some fruits. This time, Peggy didn't dare to consider his own face anymore and took them carefully. This little guy, Runty, didn't mean to be polite at all. He didn't wash or wipe it when he took it out. He just stuffed it into his mouth and ate it. In the original story, this little girl was wearing a mask, and I don't know what her mouth looked like. Sometimes, Orgrim would wonder if she was the same as Katakuri. But now, Runty is not in the habit of wearing a mask, and Orgrim has finally seen her true face. There is nothing weird about her, just a cute little mouth. After taking these little guys around for a while, they became somewhat familiar with each other. Runty didn't know how to be polite, and urged her to go eat fish, saying that she hadn't eaten well in 2 days and so on. So the group of people followed Orgrim back, preparing to eat fish. Sitting on the dining table, Runty held the cutlery in her hands, looking forward to it, and said, Xiao Pei, give me your fish later. Why? I do not want it. Peggy Wan said, very unhappy. I am a sister, so of course I eat more than my brother, so that I can have the strength to protect you, Runty said naturally. Peggy Wan felt that what she said made sense, and she couldn't refute it. Gee ha 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 ha, don't worry, you can eat until you're full. Orgrim laughed and said. After a slight pause, he looked at Peggywen and Runty and said, do you two have any family members? Yes, I have, Runty said without hesitation. Orgrim's brows raised slightly. He has a family, it doesn't matter, just pack it up and take it back to Avalon. But before Orgrim could speak, Runty grabbed Peggy Wan's neck and said, are you stupid? I already said that Xiao Pei and I are siblings, how could we not have family? Aren't we just family? Hey, sister. You should be more respectful to Master Chewie when you speak. Peggy said in a panic, fearing that Orgrim would take out his warhammer and blow their heads off in anger. Ha 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 ha, Yamato started laughing. But while smiling, Yamato realized that he shouldn't be smiling, right? So he stuck out his tongue and acted cute to Orgrim. Orgrim rolled his eyes, but didn't care about Yamato's little girl's ridicule. Robin also glanced at Orgrim in a funny way, but Andres didn't care about it. He looked at the chopsticks in his hand as if he was thinking about the way of the sword. I mean, apart from you siblings, are there any other family members? Orgrim asked again. Runti shook her head this time and said, no, there are only two of us. Well, then, do you two have somewhere to go? What are you doing on this island? What are your recent plans? Orgrim asked. Don't have anywhere to go. Come to this island? We originally lived on this island. I have no plans recently, I just want to eat fish. Runti said carelessly. It turns out he lives on this island. Orgrim touched his chin, then grinned and said, you too, do you want to follow me? Runti grabbed Peguin's head and held it in her arms. She looked at Orgrim with some vigilance and said, are you a human trafficker? Ah. Before he finished speaking, Runti let go of Peguin again and said, I made a mistake, you are a pirate. Peguin was very excited at this time and asked Master Zui, am I talking to you? Return to the dark holy land Avalon. Yes, I think you two are very destined to us. Do you want to come back to Avalon with me and become a pirate in the future? Orgrim said with a smile. Pirates, before Peguin could say anything, Runti's eyes were shining, looking very expectant and excited. Of course, otherwise, why would I take you back? Like you said, I'm a pirate. Orgrim said with a smile. I do, Runti raised her hand and said very decisively. Then, before Orgrim could speak, Runti grabbed Peguin's head again, shook it wildly and said, sister, I just want to. If you want to be a pirate, Ziope, don't object. Peggy. Juan felt very uncomfortable being shaken back and forth by Runti, but she still quickly said, I know, I don't object. Runti and Peguin are both locals, and Peguin has not gained any abilities at this time. But as for Runti, 2 years ago, when she was younger, she inexplicably ate a devil fruit and they have become able users of the animal type, dragon fruit, ancient species, and pagoda-headed dragon form. As for their parents, in short, the two of them can't remember them at all and have no impression. They don't know whether they abandoned the two siblings or were born. What an accident! On the island, the two siblings depended on each other and lived a very hard life. But because of Runti's ability, most adults were no match for her, so it was not particularly miserable, just a little poor. In short, the two of them had nothing to worry about. Orgrim wanted to take them back to Avalon, and they had no intention of refusing. A Sledgehammer Breaks into Pirates. Author, Zippo. Chapter 492. Ancient Species. Doflamingo sat on the sofa in front of Orgrim a little strangely and asked. Well, that's right, please help me keep an eye on it. Orgrim nodded and said. You seem to value those two little guys very much. If you really want to train them, didn't you get the xiao fruit earlier? Although you are from the natural system, you, Mr. Zui, have a great family, so you shouldn't be reluctant to part with it, right? Doflamingo said with a smile. The devil fruit trade fair has come to an end. Runti and Peguin are following Orgrim. Orgrim originally wanted to be at the venue. He looked for the ancient Spinosaurus devil fruit that Peguin would eat in the future. But there was none. He also thought about giving Peguin another devil fruit ability. If he burned the fruit, in fact, it's not impossible. But Runti disagrees with her life and death, saying that if her sister is a dragon fruit grown in ancient times, her younger brother must be the same. Peguin, on the other hand, looks very disgusted with Runti. But in fact, he is still very patient with his sister. And Peguin does prefer animals, so Orgrim naturally agreed to these things. Please ask Doflamingo to arrange it for him, Call him more flamenco, please pay more attention when you have time. Not suitable. Ogrim didn't explain anything to Doflamingo. Doflamingo didn't pursue anything. Anyway, it was just a trivial matter. He smiled and said, okay, it's not a troublesome thing. It's just an ancient thing. It's just a species. I'll mark a bounty in the dark world and send people to look for it. I can easily find a lot of them. Well, that's up to you. Orgrim said with a smile. What are you going to do now? It's almost over, Doflamingo asked. Let's go back to Avalon. Next, Rengar is going to Melview for surgery. I wonder if we should arrange for Runty to be there too. Orgrim touched his chin and said. After thinking for a while, Orgrim shook his head and said, forget it for now, let them go together when the time comes. I'm going to go back to Avalon to do some things. What's up? Doflamingo asked curiously. Orgrim grinned and said, the Navy has recruited soldiers, why don't I increase my strength? Is there a good candidate? Doflamingo raised his eyebrows and asked. It's an idea, Orgrim nodded. Doflamingo saw that Orgrim didn't intend to say more, so he didn't continue to ask. In short, the bank matters will be left to you, Orgrim finally warned again. Understand, my next focus will be on this matter, don't worry, Doflamingo nodded and responded. After saying what needed to be said, Orgrim left nothing more and turned to leave the house, preparing to go to the port to board the ship and leave. But when he was about to open the door, Orgrim paused again, turned to look at Doflamingo and said, you and Monet. What's wrong? Doflamingo asked a little strangely. It doesn't matter, right? Orgrim smiled and said. Doflamingo rolled his eyes and said, I am no longer the person I used to be. I don't have a messy relationship with Monet. What on earth are you going to say? I think we should strengthen contact and communication to take the relationship further. Orgrim let go of the doorknob, turned around and said seriously. Doflamingo was completely confused. What does this mean? Isn't the relationship between us close enough? Could it be that Lord Hammer is planning to kill Don Quixote? The family is completely integrated into their system. Doflamingo thinks it doesn't matter, but in this case, what will happen to his position as the king of the Shichibukai? He can't be the leader of the Warhammer pirates and become the king of the Shichibukai, right? The world government must also agree. So Doflamingo frowned a little and said, you mean, I will no longer be the king of the Shichibukai? Orgrim was also stunned for a moment, and then quickly waved his hand and said, you misunderstood. What should you do? What should you continue to do? I am too lazy to care about you. I mean, let's exchange and learn among our cotters, send each other something like that. Doflamingo breathed a sigh of relief. It seemed that Hammer was still the same Hammer, but he didn't quite understand what Orgrim meant. In this case, you ask Monet to come back to Avalon with me and be my secretary for a while, and then I arrange for her to take over some of the work of the Warhammer pirates. Orgrim said. Doflamingo also knows that he cannot always be the king of the Shichibukai. This policy is just a policy used by the world government to get involved in the new world and balance the power of the sea. Now, in the new world, there is no place for the rest of the Shichibukai to survive, so he can still rely on Lord Sui to get around. But given his status, the world government's idea of using the Shichibukai to enter the new world is almost shattered. In balancing the power of the sea, Shanks has left the new world, which can be considered a failure. So in the future, if the situation changes again, it is not impossible that the king's Shichibukai system will become a thing of the past. By then, how should Doflamingo go? At that point, Doflamingo actually felt that it was time to fully enter the system of the Warhammer pirates. Because his mission was almost completed. At the beginning, he is the pioneer for Orgrim to enter the Dark World. Now, the Dark World has been almost completely eaten by Orgrim. In the future, there will be no need for him to be the pioneer. Now, his main identity is to act as a buffer on the surface between Orgrim and the world government and the navy, and do a good job in the king's Shishibukai. But after the king's Shishibukai is gone, he will have nowhere to go. At that time, it seems that the best choice is to directly enter the Warhammer Pirates system. Then, the cotters of the Don Quixote family will naturally become the cotters of the Warhammer Pirates. Now, strengthened contact communication seems to be a good thing, and it will be seamless when the time comes. Monet, he is a newcomer on his side, and seems to be a suitable person to be sent to communicate and take on this task. Thinking of this, Doflamingo felt that he had probably understood what Orgrim meant. As expected of Mr. Chui, have you already begun to prepare for what will happen many years later? I have full admiration for Orgrim in my heart. Doflamingo, who felt that he had figured it out, did not refuse anything. He indeed had no other disputes with Monet, they were just the young master and the cotter. So he nodded and said, "Okay, I'll ask Monet to go back with you later." Gee ha 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 ha, okay, Orgrim nodded and said. After a slight pause, he continued, "I am occupying you here alone, so you can't suffer a loss. After I go back, I will send a capable helper to make up for this for you." Secretary position. Doflamingo didn't think much about it. The communication was naturally mutual. If he couldn't send people there, Orgrim wouldn't care about it. Indeed, we need some people over there to come and get familiar with Don Quixote. The most essential situation of the clan is also a good way to prepare for the future. Ken Doflamingo nodded and responded. "Well, then I'll ask Neiman to come over and be your secretary when I get back," Orgrim said matter-of-factly, and then he turned around and opened the door, and walked out without giving Doflamingo time to react. Doflamingo was stunned for a moment, waiting for Orgrim to. After Mew closed the door, he fully realized. Holy shit! Give me back my admiration. I thought it was some foresight, so that's it, Doflamingo cursed secretly. I thought that Orgrim had a long-term vision and had already begun to plan something. But it turned out to be a good thing. It turned out that I was just overthinking and making up my mind. In fact, Orgrim, I was just worried about my relationship with Monet, and wanted to set Neiman up with me, so I went through all these twists and turns. I'm so stupid, I'm really stupid, to believe him. Doflamingo felt his heart bleed when he thought that his petite little secretary had been exchanged for a strong and powerful big secretary from Orgrim. I treat you as a brother, but you actually, Doflamingo was thinking about it, but couldn't think about it anymore. Huh. Why does it feel a little strange? I treat Orgrim as a brother, and he also treats me as a brother. It still means real brother, and he is ready to make me his brother-in-law. But he spit out his words and said everything he said. I can't go back on my word now, otherwise it would be too much of a slap in the face, not only on Orgrim's face, but also on Neiman's face. Although Doflamingo felt that he and Neiman really didn't call each other. But as friends, Doflamingo and Neiman still have a good relationship. So he couldn't do anything, and finally had no choice but to swallow the sigh of relief. Orgrim, you bastard, plotted against me. On the other side, Orgrim left with Monet in a very happy mood. In the Don Quixote family, there is nothing more dangerous than Monet. Once Monet left, Doflamingo had no other choice. Baby -5 is still a little lowly, and Orgrim thinks that Doflamingo would not be so unruly. Violet is nothing at all. She has a blood feud with Doflamingo. There is no real relationship between the two of them. At best, they are just bed partners. Orgrim doesn't care about this at all. Even if he really recruits Doflamingo to be his brother-in-law, Orgrim will not restrict Doflamingo or anything. Therefore, as long as Monet is taken away, there will be no one in the Don Quixote family who can fight. Of course, if you, Doflamingo, have strong tastes and can really get along with that artist Jorah, then I will give you a letter of acceptance. Neiman, brother, I have taken away all the dangerous factors around him. The rest depends on your ability, Orgrim whispered softly. Thinking of this, Orgrim turned his head and glanced at the very well-behaved Monet who was following him, and thought to himself shamelessly, Niemann, I am really heartbroken for your sister, but who can say that? I am your eldest brother, and I will always keep the secretary with me, and I will never let her become your opponent. Monet glanced at Orgrim strangely, wondering what Lord Hammer was thinking. However, she had just joined the Don Quixote family not long ago, and she really didn't have a deep affection for Doflamingo. When it comes to the Don Quixote family, there is one thing that really makes her reluctant to part with her, and that is her younger sister Sugar. But she didn't betray the Don Quixote family. The Warhammer pirates and the Don Quixote family are all one, okay? Aren't we going to see each other again? On the contrary, Monet was still very excited about being able to work as a secretary with Mr. Chui. This, it should be considered a promotion, right? In short, Monet has no dissatisfaction, and is now looking forward to starting a new life in Avalon. It's the end of the month, please give me flowers and monthly tickets. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. A sledgehammer breaks into pirates. Author, Zippo. Chapter 493. Windless Zone, 9 Snake Island Amazon Lily. This is a country of girls and a country of fighting nations. If they were not located in the Windless Zone, the country's technological strength would be relatively backward and unable to support their large-scale entry and exit of the Windless Zone. With all the warriors of Amazon Lily, they are skilled and armed with domineering strength. It can be called a world-class military power. But just because they are located in a windless zone, their influence in the world is too small. Even the participating countries cannot enter. Of course, Amazon Lily has no intention of entering the world government system. However, this country is very influential in the field of pirates. Because they have an ancestral pirate group, which is the Nine Snakes Pirates Group. However, over the years, whether it is the New World or the rest of the sea, the movement of the Nine Snakes Pirates has been rarely heard. Probably the period when Orgrim first went to sea was the last period when the Kuja pirates were active. Since then, the Nine Snakes Pirates have been eliminated. The Emperor of the Amazon Lily rarely appears in the sea anymore. Later, she died silently of illness in Amazon Lily, and the 3 Crown Prince sisters were captured and made into slaves. Now, 2 years have passed since Tiger burned Marijoa. The 3 slave sisters who were originally miserable in Marijoa have now become the 3 Crown Prince sisters again. Marigold and Sandasonia seemed to be affected by the devil fruit or other factors, and they became a little weird. It can't be called beautiful. But their eldest sister, Boya Hancock. But it becomes more and more beautiful, more and more beautiful. In the entire Daughter Island, in the entire Amazon Lily, there is no one more beautiful than her. The charm that she exudes with every gesture makes everyone in Amazon Lily obsessed with her. Perhaps Hancock's foundation is already very good, and he is the bud of a peerless beauty. Or perhaps, the superhuman sweet fruit directly or indirectly played some role in her growth and development period. In short, Hancock now has a sense of elegance and elegance. However, due to her former slave life, Hancock has always had a tendency to feel inferior in his heart. Therefore, in order to cover up his inferiority, Hancock has always shown his arrogance to outsiders. But because of her beautiful face, this doesn't seem to be a shortcoming. As she said, no matter what she did, she would be forgiven because she was so beautiful. Hancock himself has a very strong talent, and he is a natural overlord that only occurs 1 in a million. Amazon Lily is another very powerful fighting nation. Therefore, Hancock is very good in terms of strength. At a young age, he has already mastered the 3-color haki skillfully. Coupled with the ability of Tien Tien Fruit and her charm, she has become a quite powerful master. How awesome is it? The first time he went to sea, his strength was recognized by the world government and he became the king of the Shishibukai. Although the Oishi Shishibukai is very wet, it was Hancock's first time going to sea. After that, her strength must have increased a lot. Moreover, sweet fruit itself is a rule-based ability. As long as you have feelings or evil thoughts towards people with abilities, then once he is attacked, he will die immediately. What is this? That's right, cheating. Especially combined with Hancock's charm and good looks, it's 100% cheating. In fact, Orgrim has never understood what level Boya Hancock's strength is, but he is undoubtedly quite powerful. I don't understand because the upper and lower limits of her several shots were very vague. During the battle at the top of Marineford, the boat was paddling throughout the entire process and did not show overwhelming strength. It is concluded that she is powerful because she can suppress the elite vice admiral of the Navy headquarters, Flying Squirrel, by using her own charm alone to avoid being petrified. If we say, this can be regarded as the increase brought by the fruit ability. During the Douglas Barrett incident, the performance of Supernova and others headed by Luffy was completely suppressed by Hancock. A group of them beat Barrett for a long time, but there was no movement at all. Hancock went up and kicked the giant Barrett, staggering him. There was no ability in that kick, maybe it was just Hancock's simple physical strength. You know, at that time, Luffy had already beaten King Shishibukai, Don Quixote, and Doflamingo to the ground. Katakuri also lost to Luffy due to various factors. It can be said that Luffy at that period was already very powerful. Hancock's performance is obviously a level better than Luffy's. So Orgrim has always believed that there may be many fishermen in the Shishibukai of the first generation king, but Boya Hancock is definitely the kind of person with explosive strength. You don't know where her upper limit is, but judging from her few performances, she has already shown that she is powerful enough. Of course, Hancock is only 18 years old now, and his strength has not really exploded yet. But among Amazon Lily, it is already quite outstanding. And she is about to usher in the throne of Amazon Lily. Become the Emperor of Amazon Lily, also known as the Pirate Empress. But before that, she needs to carry out an Emperor's hunt, officially appear on the world stage as a pirate, and announce to the world that the 9 Snakes pirates, who have been dormant for many years, are back. The Emperor's hunt was her way of proving her abilities. The Emperor of Amazon Lily will lead the people to ensure the development of the country through hunting. The more abundant the Emperor's hunts were, the more powerful she was able to prove. At this time, in Hancock's palace, Hancock was lying on his pet Salome. What she held in her hand was a wanted poster with a reward from the world government. The person above is none other than Kazgarot Orgrim. Although he had never met Orgrim, after Hancock was rescued, he still understood the cause. Knowing that it was Orgrim, the big boss, who helped introduce Fisher Tiger to Riley, he ultimately planned the Marijoya arson incident and saved the 3 sisters. And Hancock, since then, has been very attracted to Orgrim. In other words, before this, many people in Amazon Lily were very concerned about Orgrim. Although 9 Snake Island is located in a windless zone, they are not really indifferent to worldly affairs. On the contrary, because they have joined pirates in the past generations, they are actually very concerned about the situation on the sea. The culture and customs of 9 Snake Island are all very distinctive, that is, strength is beauty. That's right, the reason why Hancock will surpass Amazon Lily in the future is not only because she is really beautiful, but also because she is the strongest among Amazon Lily. In the original story, Hancock was not interested in Luffy at all at first because she thought Luffy was too weak. Later, it was because I learned that Luffy had beaten a celestial dragon that I started to have feelings for Luffy. Hancock was deeply influenced by the celestial dragons and naturally had some fear of the celestial dragons. And Luffy's hammer celestial dragon just happened to establish a powerful concept. So Hancock thinks Luffy is handsome. But now, Luffy is still a bad brother, but he has an extra orgram. Originally, whether it was Tiger's rescue or Rayleigh's participation, Hancock had no special performance. Because Tiger is a fishman and Rayleigh is a bad old man. But now, there is an extra orgram here. Orgram is not very old, he is not even 30 years old yet. But he is powerful enough, so many people in Amazon Lily will pay attention to orgram. Previously, Hancock was one of them. After being rescued, she became even more interested in orgram. In the eyes of Hancock, who regards strength as his beauty, Orgram is the most handsome man among the younger generation in the world today. If you are from the older generation, then Whitebeard is considered a handsome old guy. And Orgram was her savior, so in the past 2 years, Hancock had some admiration for Orgram in his heart. From time to time, I would pick up Orgram's wanted poster and look at it to appreciate Orgram's glorious beauty and so on. Snake Girl, while Hancock was admiring Orgram's handsome appearance, an old woman walked in with a cane. Hancock looked at the old woman with a somewhat impatient expression, feeling that this old woman was affecting his appreciation of beauty. Got it? What to do? Hancock's tone was also very disrespectful and he asked with arrogance. However, the old woman didn't seem to care about this, or in other words, she had become accustomed to it in the past 2 years. She was the former emperor of Amazon Lily. Gloria saw. Today we have detected traces of Navy warships emerging from the vicinity of Nine Snakes Island. There is no doubt that the Navy should have mastered a technology that can safely cross the windless zone. We, Amazon Lily, are no longer like before. That's safe, Gloria said. Hancock seemed to have no interest in these, waving his hands and saying so what? How about it? Don't forget, we Amazon Lily are a pirate nation. Once the world government is really capable, the Navy will most likely come back to wipe us out, Gloria said. Hancock's eyes lit up when he heard this, and he asked expectantly, it seems like this. In other words, we have to find a way to prevent the Navy from controlling us, right? Gloria was stunned for a moment. What's going on? I'm obviously here to tell you bad news, why do you look so excited and expectant? But she still answered Hancock's question, nodded and said that's right, as the Crown Prince, you are destined to become the next generation of emperors. You should be responsible for the entire Amazon Lily and protect the safety of Amazon Lily. Then I have a good idea. Hancock said without hesitation. Gloriosa was stunned again. Are you so smart? She asked with some doubts, what's a good idea? Wouldn't it be nice for us, Amazon Lily, to move to the New World? That is the world of pirates. We are a country of pirates, so we should live there. At the same time, neither the Navy nor the world government has much control over the New World, and they cannot threaten us, right? Hancock said excitedly. Everyone in Gloriosa was stupid. What the hell are you talking about? But soon, she noticed the wanted poster in Hancock's hand, and she understood immediately, well, this guy wants to find Orgram. Take Amazon Lily with him. However, this matter is a bit too whimsical. Amazon Lily simply cannot afford the materials required to travel long distances across the country. So Gloriosa quickly said that's not the case. This method is too whimsical. Let me ask you, have you ever heard of King Shichibukai? Of course, what happened? Hancock asked with a frown. She felt very unhappy that Gloriosa rejected her proposal. But she was not the emperor of Amazon Lily yet, and she couldn't make the decision. So she endured this tone, wait until I become the emperor, hum hum hum. The King's Shichibukai is our best choice. As long as you, Snake Princess, become the King's Shichibukai, then the world's government and navy will no longer target us. At the same time, you can still have legal plunder. Power, by then, we Amazon Lily will definitely become more powerful, Gloriosa said quickly. But as soon as she finished speaking, Hancock's face turned dark, and he said with a very disgusted and hateful expression, "You called me a concubine and became a lackey of the world government? Mother-in-law, you should know what my sisters and I have been through, right? I can't wait to kill all those damn marines and celestial dragons." How could he possibly go back and become their king in the Shichibukai? Shiji, there was something else that Croliosa wanted to persuade. But Hancock had already stood up, kicked Croliosa in the butt, and kicked her out. "Say no more. This is absolutely impossible," Hancock reprimanded angrily. A sledgehammer breaks into pirates. Author, Zippo. Chapter 494. Snake Princess, you are the crown prince of Amazon Lily. You will soon become the emperor of Amazon Lily. You must shoulder your responsibilities. Croliosa was still outside the door and wanted to say something. But Hancock slammed the door and closed it. "I don't want to hear any more nonsense from this old woman." But after closing the door, Hancock stood in front of the door with a complicated expression and hesitation. Although Hancock behaves very willfully and arrogantly. But in fact, she is not an ignorant, careless, and irresponsible person. Otherwise, she would not have truly become the king of the 7 warlords in the original story. "Emperor," Hancock murmured softly. The Emperor of Amazon Lily sounds so majestic, but the heavy responsibility he has to shoulder is also very heavy. There are more than 1 million people in Amazon Lily. They have almost nothing to produce, and most of the weapons they use are bows and arrows. Is it because they don't like using muskets? No, maybe bows and arrows are their favorite weapons and a tradition, but in the final analysis, the reason why muskets are not used is because they are useless. They can only rely on robbing, but cannot produce. The lack of resources is always a big mountain weighing on them. It is impossible to establish a trade system with the outside world, and the island's resources are very scarce, resulting in a population that has never been able to increase. Hancock is about to become the emperor of Amazon Lily, and these are the problems she will face. Now, another more dangerous situation lies ahead. The Navy already has mature enough technology to move in and out of windless zones at will. This windless environment can no longer serve as a natural barrier for their Amazon Lily. If changes are not made, the world government may one day make up its mind, and the Navy headquarters army will rush into the windless zone and destroy Amazon Lily, which has been passed down for hundreds or thousands of years. Kyoji Island and the Kyoji pirates may become history. And it is impossible for these pirate nationals to receive any preferential treatment. Perhaps, everyone will become a slave. Slave, when he thought of these 2 words, Hancock's eyes flashed with flames of hatred. But it seems that she has to bow to her enemies in order to protect this country. No. No way, I can never bow my head like those damn beasts, Hancock said to himself through gritted teeth. The Emperor of Amazon Lily is the Emperor, the pirate emperor of the New World is also the Emperor. Why, the world government can force Amazon Lily, but it can't force those pirate emperors. In the final analysis, it is because I am not strong enough and Amazon Lily is not strong enough. Hancock said with determination in his eyes. Is Amazon Lily strong? In fact, it is still very strong. But as long as the Navy and the world government have passed the level of the windless zone, it will be very simple to deal with them because 9 Snake Island is an isolated island. The Navy does not need to do much. Sealing the sea area so that they cannot go out to hunt prey such as Neptune is enough to trigger Amazon Lily's food crisis. By then, just being hungry can starve a large number of people to death. There is no need to attack at all. With the wisdom of the warring states marshal, he probably would not choose to attack a country of warriors. In the past, because of the restrictions of the windless zone, the Navy it is impossible for the world government to make such a big move, otherwise the Sea Kings in the windless zone would be Amazon Lily's natural allies. But now, the Navy has overcome this difficulty. Amazon Lily will be very dangerous. and the windless belt seems to have no value at all anymore. Hancock is unwilling to let Amazon Lily be trapped in the windless belt anymore. Perhaps joining the King's Shichibukai is a good choice, but after all, they are betting Amazon Lily's national destiny on the rules set by a world government. Today they can form the King's Shichibukai, and tomorrow, they can completely disband the King's Shichibukai. At that time, Amazon Lily's dilemma, there will still be no change. Therefore, if you want Amazon Lily to truly get out of the predicament, you cannot rely on the King's Shichibukai system. We have to find a broad road. In Hancock's view, the only way to survive is to get out of the windless zone and enter the new world. This is Amazon Lily's way of survival. With the combat power of Amazon Lily and the culture and customs of Amazon Lily, it is a perfect match for the new world. As a country of pirates, they should stay in the realm of pirates. Only in the new world can Amazon Lily come alive. However, just relying on yourself, just relying on Amazon Lily, just like Guloliosa said, is whimsical. They simply do not have enough resource reserves, nor do they have enough ships to carry millions of people into the new world. Even if this plan is launched, step by step, it is estimated that it will take 3 or 4 generations to complete. There is not much time to arrange such a plan. Will the world government and navy give them so much time? Therefore, what Guloliosa said is right, Amazon Lily, the only way to survive now is to let Hancock join the 7 warlords. As long as Hancock seizes the position of King Shichibukai, Amazon Lily can still survive for a while. The time gained is the opportunity to wait for change. This is also the reason why Hancock finally became the king of the Shichibukai in the original story. But nowadays, it seems that the choice is not just this. What Amazon Lily cannot do with all his strength seems to be very simple to one person. That person is Hosgarode Orgrim, one of the 4 pirate emperors of the New World. The power he possesses is completely incomparable to Hancock, the emperor of 9 Snake Island. Ship King Umit, the people under him, if they can get the support of Orgrim, Amazon Lily may all be able to move to the New World within 3 to 5 years. Of course, this is Hancock's prediction. In fact, if Orgrim wants to pull Amazon Lily into the New World, there was no need to use Umit at all. He called Boss Shiji through a phone call and asked him for a favor. You can connect people and islands in minutes, and you can bring Amazon and Lily into the New World. She breathed out slowly. This girl had a heavy burden on her body. She looked at the Orgrim bounty notice in her hand again, and said softly, I will definitely become as powerful and beautiful as you. By then, no one will dare to bully me, Boya-san. Sister, no one dares to bully me, Amazon Lily. After Hancock finished speaking, he thought again. How can this be accomplished? First of all, the problem of contact is not difficult. Grandma Zi has Rayleigh's contact information. Rayleigh will definitely be able to talk to Orgrim. It is said that their relationship is quite good. The only question is, how to get Orgrim to help them Amazon Lily. After thinking for a long time, Hancock felt that he still had to prove his worth. Amazon Lily must have sufficient value to facilitate these things. Nowadays, Amazon Lily and the 9 Snakes pirates have been silent for too long. People who have been on the sea for a long time may have forgotten how powerful they once were. Then, as the new generation of emperor, I have to exert this power. In the final analysis, it still depends on the emperor's hunting. Thinking of this, Hancock became more and more looking forward to his coronation ceremony and the hunt for the emperor. In the entire 9 Snakes Island, there are few people who are my opponents. I wonder what kind of scenery will be on this sea? At the same time, in the eternal night sea of the New World, Avalon, Orgrim has been back for a while. He was sitting in the courtyard at this time, holding a small notebook in his hand, scribbling and writing something on it. Not far away, in the wide courtyard, Runty was riding on Peguin's shoulders, and Yamato was riding on Andrest's shoulders. The two sides are playing a game of horseback fighting. Robin stood behind Orgrim, stretching his little head, watching Orgrim scribbling in the notebook, and was a little curious about what he was doing. There are some people's names in the book. For example, people like Katakuri, Jinbe, Shanks, Crocodile, and Teach. But the names of these people were later crossed out by Orgrim. After that, there are some rough descriptions, just a few keywords and the like. Robin looked at it for a long time, but couldn't understand anything, so he couldn't bear his curiosity after all, and asked Mr. Orgrim, "What are you doing?" Orgrim listened to Ben asked, stopped what he was doing with a smile, and said, "Are you curious?" Curious." Robin nodded and said, "Gee ha 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 ha, as you know, the Navy has started a special recruitment, recruiting civilian masters from the sea to join, and I am also looking for if there are any similar masters who can join our Warhammer pirates, and I plan these are the people who may have shaken their original stance, but may not join my banner now," Orgrim explained. Similar to Katakuri, Drago said that he had a big conflict with Charlotte Lingling. This may be a wavering position. But he could not join the Warhammer pirates because there is a blood feud with him. There is also Jinbei. As the king of the Shichibukai and as the link between the world government and Fishman Island, his position has long been tilted, but he cannot join his side. Later, Shanks, Crocodile, and Teach are all approximate types. In fact, Crocodile and Orgrim think he might still be able to operate it. When this guy becomes depraved again, and when he is in trouble, he can help him. What, maybe it will be done. He didn't know that Crocodile was not degenerating as he thought. This old Yinbai was holding back his ultimate move. But it is obvious that Crocodile will not come close to him at this stage. So Orgrim finally crossed out his name. The Navy has done this, and now Orgrim is going to pursue short, flat, and fast. That means being able to find, join smoothly, and become talented quickly in a short period of time. Although Tetsalo is a rookie now, he actually belongs to this kind of short, flat, and fast talent. Found, he has found it and joined. And his speed of becoming a talent is quite fast compared to ordinary people. Before he got the golden fruit, he was just a passerby. But after getting the golden fruit, both his strength and talent expanded at an extremely fast speed. And with Doflamingo leading the way, it is naturally better than him growing wildly. I believe it will be effective within 3 or 2 years. In addition to Tizero, Orgrim has now identified a new candidate. That's right, the pirate Empress Boya Hancock. This is also a talent that fully conforms to the concept of short, flat, and fast. Even the Amazon lily standing behind her is a powerful force. If only it could be integrated into the Avalon system. The Navy's conscription does not seem to be a threat. If Warring States has any new moves, he can continue to take them. But thinking about it, I felt that I was too nervous. After all, fighting against the Navy camp is not his own business. Now it's as if I, Orgrim, have to carry the entire Navy by myself. It is possible to carry it, but carrying it like this seems too retarded. What if something happens between the pirate camp and the Navy camp, in a head-on conflict? It makes no sense for me, Orgrim, to lead the people in the front and fight them to death, while the rest of you are sneakily eating meat and drinking soup in the back, right? Alas, you damn old woman, old man with white beard, and Boss Kaido, please give me some help. Orgrim muttered. A sledgehammer breaks into pirates. Author, Zippo. Chapter 495. Admiralty Marineford. In Marshal Sengoku's office, Sengoku was looking at the man in front of him in surprise. Fujitora smiled. Not long ago, there was a special conscription, and civilian masters were recruited. He was also the only man awarded the rank of lieutenant general in this conscription. After actually measuring Fujitora's fighting ability, the naval marshal of the Warring States period was quite satisfied. Because this man is a top player who is no weaker than Sakazuki, Kyuzan, and Purasalino. On the surface, the addition of a lieutenant general to the Navy headquarters seems to be a painless move. But in fact, the Navy headquarters has an additional general-level combat capability. The only regret is that this general's combat effectiveness is not particularly trustworthy yet, and he has not been integrated into the Navy's circle. There are many things that I don't trust him to do. However, these can all be adjusted over time, which is generally a good thing. It also gave Sengoku a taste of the sweetness. It might not be possible to catch top talents like Fujitora Isaki every time he was recruited, but it was still a good start. This recruitment method can be repeated several times in the future. Maybe we'll catch a big fish? Of course, at this stage, it still depends on what situation Fujitora Yashang will bring to the Navy. If there are any loopholes that he did not expect, it would be better to fill them in time. But today, Marshal Sengoku was surprised that Fujitora Yuxia actually came to apply for transfer. That's right, this man has only been here at the Navy headquarters for less than a month, and he has to apply for transfer. This made Senguo, the naval marshal, very frustrated. What did I do wrong? Do you want to dislike my naval headquarters so much? Why are you all leaving me? Yuxiao, you have only been here for a short time, have you really thought about it? Marshal Sengoku still wanted to dissuade him with a few words. A smile appeared on Fujitora's face. He didn't know what happened because of Orgrim's intrusion. Anyway, his eyes were not blind. At this time, he opened a pair of big eyes. He looked at Marshal Waring States with a smile and said, Marshal, I have already thought about it. I think this department may not be very suitable for me. G-5 is more in line with my expectations. Fujitora smiled. He was just a Ronin. He had a somewhat unruly personality and was not as serious as the Navy. The justice in his heart was not particularly in line with the overall justice concept of the world government and the Navy. If you have not been exposed to Jun when it comes to the G-5 Navy, Fujitora may not have any unnecessary thoughts. Maybe he just feels a little uncomfortable in the headquarters, but it will be fine if he stays for a few more years to get familiar with it and get used to it. But the problem is, in the future before joining the Navy headquarters, he had spent some time with Jun in the G-5 Navy in the New World. It wasn't long, only 2 months. And these 2 months had a great impact on Fujitora Isho Big. In other words, it affected his first impression of the Navy. When he was hanging out with the Rogue Navy in the New World in G-5, he felt quite comfortable, just like he was back at home. There the people are well spoken and all are talented people. In just 2 months, he became involved with the Rogue Navy members of G-5, and also met many gambling friends. At that time, he felt that joining the Navy was definitely the right move. The atmosphere of the Navy seemed to suit him very well. But when he came to Marine Headquarters Marineford to officially take up his post, Fujitora felt something was wrong as soon as he smiled. Marineford was too serious and had no G at all. 5. When I came here, it was as if I had an extra shackle called justice on my body. This was something Fujitora Isaki was very uncomfortable with. When justice becomes a shackle, is it still upholding justice? Then, Marineford didn't find any like-minded friends. That was Lieutenant General Garp, who had a carefree and eclectic personality, and we got along well with him. But Garp was an old-timer and a naval hero, so Garp does still have a sense of distance. In Marineford, he was too embarrassed to take out the dice and bet with someone, as if it was against justice. In short, the longer he stayed, the more uncomfortable he became. During this period, Fujitora, as soon as he smiled, he recalled the joy of G-5. The New World is better, and G-5 is happy. He felt a little homesick. Then, he thought of what Jun said when he parted with him before coming here. Those words. If you feel uncomfortable or inappropriate at the headquarters, don't hesitate to contact me at G-5 and offer you the position of Deputy Base Commander. At that time, Fujitora smiled and didn't understand what Jun meant. What? Listening to what you said, it feels like the Navy headquarters is not as good as G-5. It shouldn't be. After all, it is the headquarters, and G-5 is just a branch. The result is only after that did I realize that what Jun said was really true. The headquarters just didn't have a branch. So now, Fujitora Isho has finally made up his mind. He wants to be transferred to G-5, and he wants to go home. So does Marshal Sengoku. I have a toothache. This kind of special recruitment by the Navy has not been used for decades. Those previous experiences were just empty talk and were out of step with the times. Therefore, he was just trying to feel his way through this. As for the river, so he was too embarrassed to refuse Fujitora Isaki's words. He didn't know if there would be any bad consequences if he forced Fujitora Isaki to stay in the headquarters after rejecting the rejection. Now I am applying for transfer, but if he doesn't agree, what if he holds it in for a while, can't hold it in anymore, and just runs away? How uncomfortable would that be? After all, it's not like he has no criminal record. Isn't that bastard Durag just can't hold it in anymore and just runs away? On the contrary, Jun couldn't hold it in at the headquarters, but when he went to G-5, he seemed to be reborn. Although the changes were so big that even Sengoku felt it was unacceptable. But anyway, Jun still represents the Navy, it is still maintaining justice. I don't know how many times better than that bastard Durag who just knows how to run away. Thinking of this, the Warring States Marshal was also a little shaken. How to deal with the follow-up effects of the conscription, it is indeed necessary to figure out crossing the river by holding stones. I figured it out step by step. Now that Fujitora is willing to go to G-5, it is also a way to deal with it. Give it a try. The Warring States Marshal made up his mind. Then, he took a sip from the teacup, moistened his throat, looked at Fujitora and said with a smile, "Okay, with a smile, you are a specially recruited talent. Maybe the atmosphere in this department is indeed not good. It's perfect for you, so let's take it step by step. Since you like the G-5 Navy, then I will transfer you to the G-5 Navy. After you get familiar with the Navy's style there, maybe in the future, are you willing to return to your headquarters?" Fujitora smiled and said, "I think so too. It's a step-by-step approach. I'll stay in the branch first, and then get familiar with the Navy's style, and then come to the headquarters. It may be better and it won't be easily affected the sentiments of colleagues in the department. The emotions of colleagues in the headquarters. Yes, there are naturally pros and cons to Sengoku's move. The orthodox vice admirals within the Navy actually have quite a lot of opinions about Fujitora Isaki. We are for justice. For the sake of the Navy, I came on the sea in the wind and went in the rain. I don't know how many lives and deaths I went through before I climbed to the position of Lieutenant General of the Navy headquarters. You Fujitora smiled, you have never done anything for the Navy. Just by relying on the word can fight, you are directly on equal footing with us? Is it appropriate? It is very appropriate to put it on pirates, but the Navy is a mature system after all, so of course it is not appropriate. This is what Fujitora said with a smile. One of the main reasons why he felt uncomfortable staying in the headquarters was because he always felt excluded. If according to the original story, he came to the headquarters and directly became a general, he would naturally not feel this way because he was a superior. But Lieutenant General, we are all Lieutenant Generals. If I have opinions about you, there is no need to hide them. Sengoku thought so, so he waved his hand and approved Fujitora's transfer document. Just like that, after arriving at Marine Headquarters Marineford, Fujitora smiled and quickly returned to the New World to report to G-5. It is said that when he left the Port of Justice in Marineford, he had an expectant smile on his face and did not even look back at the Admiralty headquarters. The G-5 branch of the New World has greatly strengthened its strength. But now, no one is aware of this. After all, although Fujitora Isho was a civilian master, his reputation was still not big enough. He joined the Navy with the rank of Lieutenant General. The Vice Admiral of the Navy is gone. Who among the big guys would really pay attention to a Vice Admiral? Therefore, from the outside world, this is nothing more than an ordinary naval personnel change. Not worth mentioning at all. Except for Orgrim, who later learned the news. No one noticed that the G-5 Navy, which was not a threat at first, suddenly turned into a powerful naval branch with 2 general-level combat capabilities. What's funnier is that Fergo, who was originally serving as the deputy base commander in G-5, was directly transferred back to Marineford due to Fujitora's arrival. Became a lieutenant general in the Navy headquarters. Is this considered a promotion? After dealing with Fujitora's matter, Marshal Sengoku looked at another document in his hand. He rubbed his head in pain. The above matter was a trivial matter. It was just a colonel from the Navy headquarters who had some conflicts with other colleagues. Indeed, for the Admiral of the Navy, this is a big deal. But the problem is, I can't stand this naval colonel, he has to come every 3 to 5. Originally, he did not need to worry about these matters as the Generalissimo. But it happened that this naval colonel was an elite member of the officer training camp. Once, when the Warring States Marshal was still a general, he had already paid attention to him. And the Navy also put a lot of effort into cultivating him. Result, it doesn't seem very wonderful. That's right, the Navy's problematic colonel is Smoker. After thinking about it, the Warring States Marshal felt that he could no longer let Smoker go like this. He had to let him out and take charge of the government, so as to polish his prickly character. Therefore, with a wave of his hand, the Warring States Marshal directly drove Smoker to Rogtown in the East China Sea to become the commander. Although he still has the rank of colonel, being transferred from the headquarters to Donghai is tantamount to being demoted. Warring States' idea at this time was to let Smoker train for 2 or 3 years, and then he could be entrusted with important tasks when he came back. But he never expected that Smoker would, I just settled in Donghai. Just as he never expected, after Fujitora went to G-5, he had no intention of returning to the Navy headquarters. Beep beep, there was a knock on the door. The Warring States Marshal responded, "Come in," and then a naval captain walked in. He directly reported the report to the Marshal. The latest news, in the dark world, Avalon Dark Bank, officially launched into operation today. Is it Doflamingo who's in charge? Marshal Warring States asked casually. The naval captain shook his head strangely and said no, at least in name, the person in charge seems to be a man named Gilder Tetsalo. Who is he? The Warring States Marshal was stunned for a moment and said. I have never heard of this person at all. It's unclear, and we haven't investigated this man's background or information, the naval colonel responded quickly. Maybe there were information and files on Marijoya. But those were all burned with a fire. Otherwise, Hancock's identity would not be known anymore. After the king descended on the Shichibukai, the world government still couldn't react at all. Go check it out. The Warring States Marshal didn't delve into anything and just gave the order. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. A sledgehammer breaks into pirates. Author, Zippo. Chapter 496. Shampoo Islands, a small boat in the lawless zone just docked at the port dock. Before the gangsters in this lawless area could get close, a group of people got off the boat and directly cleared the port, driving out all the people in the port. After the port became quieter, Orgrim's strong figure stepped off the ship. Beside him was Queen Stussy, holding his arm. Behind him were Runty, Robin, and Peggy Wan. As for Yamato and Andrest, they stayed on Avalon Island. Mihawk was very dissatisfied with Andrest's letting go behavior recently and took him back to continue practicing swordsmanship. Yamato originally wanted to come with Orgrim and the others. But in the end, I couldn't bear Andrest's resentful gaze and stayed with him on Avalon Island. Is this the first half of the Grand Line? It feels like it's no different from the New World, right? Runty looked at the surrounding scenery very curiously and said. Of course there will be a big difference. The first half was called the Paradise of the Weak, while the New World is called the World of the Strong. What do you think? Peggy Wan curled her lips and said. But as soon as he finished speaking, Runty grabbed his head and lectured him angrily. Sister, you just listen, there is no need to refute, do you understand? It hurts, let go, you violent woman. Peggy Wan struggled. Robin stood aside, covering his mouth with his hand and secretly smiled. He always felt that this pair of siblings was particularly interesting. Orgrim ignored the two of them and took Stussy with him. Moving forward, the group quickly left the port of the lawless area of the Shampoo Islands. After they had left for a while, the port returned to its lively appearance with a mixture of fish and dragons. Who were those people just now? So arrogant. I don't know, can't see clearly. If you can see it clearly, don't look at it. Those who dare to do things like this must be those of us who are not popular and cannot be messed with. If you really saw it clearly, you might be dead by now. In short, don't get into trouble. Orgrim doesn't really expect to hide his whereabouts completely so that no trace can be found. That's actually not very realistic. I don't know how many pairs of eyes are staring at him. Especially the world government. With the Navy headquarters. Maybe it would be possible to completely hide it with a lot of effort, but it is not cost effective. So what he did was just to give a gesture. Let these people know that he came here in a low-key manner and was not prepared to cause trouble. After all, if you really want to cause trouble, you can't just let you discover it. I came to the Shampoo Islands not for other things. In fact, I came to see this guy Rayleigh. There is no Amazon lily in Orgrim. He has never been there. But this guy Rayleigh has it. I originally wanted to make a phone call to contact him and ask. But then I thought it would be better to come and see this old guy. After all, he hasn't been there for a while. When I saw him, I suddenly missed him. Moreover, the things to be discussed were relatively important. The interview was more formal, which also showed that he valued Amazon Lily and was more sincere. Xiaqi's rip-off tavern was still alone. Stood on the top of the mountain. Orgrim walked over with Stussy and others with a smile. Without being polite, he raised his hand and pushed open the door. The sound inside was quite lively, it seemed there are guests. This is really strange. Orgrim looked inside curiously, wanting to see who the unlucky people were, and found that the proprietress Sakai was serving drinks to the guests. They're probably a group of pirates, but they're not famous. Asshole. What are you looking at? Never seen a pirate, okay, seemingly noticing Orgrim's gaze, a pirate turned around and yelled. As a result, after seeing Orgrim's face clearly, I couldn't say anything at all. A fear arose in my heart. I haven't even entered the New World yet, so I scolded the pirate emperor of the New World. Please tell me, am I still alive? Waiting online, quite urgent. At the same time, the proprietress Xiaqi also turned to look at Orgrim, and said with some surprise, Orgrim, why are you here suddenly? Gee ha 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 ha, long time no see. My eldest sister is still so beautiful. I really envy Laule. Orgrim laughed and said, and it was all flattering. It didn't mean anything else, it was just a joke and ridicule for Xiaqi, an old friend. Can't compare to your wife. Xiaqi nodded to Queen Stussy with a smile. The queen also responded with a smile. Orgrim also looked at the group of pirates at this time and said, "Go, go, I am today. I'm in a good mood and won't argue with you." The pirates finally recovered from their panic. One by one, they quickly thanked them, stood up quickly, and wanted to leave here. "Pay for the drinks." Orgrim waved his hand and said. Xiaoqi followed with a sly smile on his face. "Thanks to your patronage, 2,200,000 belly." 200, the pirate captain almost spit out a mouthful of blood. "We just had a few glasses of wine, and it's more than 2 million Baileys. If it were normal times, he would definitely make this ignorant boss lady look so good that her teeth would be smashed. But now, don't you think that the pirate emperor of the New World, the King of Night, will call the boss's wife eldest sister? This must be a big shot that I don't know. Maybe it's not that the drinks in the tavern are too expensive, it's just that they, the little guys, may have come to the wrong place. This seemingly ordinary tavern should be a private place for the big guys, right?" Enduring the pain of bleeding in his heart, the pirate captain tremblingly handed over more than 2 million belly, destroying the last bit of his fortune. Then, seeing that Orgrim really had no intention of arguing with them, he fled the tavern in panic. After running far away, the pirate captain breathed a sigh of relief and comforted himself. "It's not a bad loss. I spent more than 2 million belly to meet the pirate emperor and leave alive. Think about it, and even think about making money with blood. Humph, I can brag about it in the future. I have met the pirate emperor and even had a drink in a tavern. It's not really bragging, after all, it's all the truth that has been modified." At the same time, in the tavern, Runty was sitting on the seat in front of the bar, swinging her calves back and forth, looking expectantly, and saying, "Madam Boss, let's have a glass of the strongest wine." "Children cannot drink," Orgrim directly interrupted Runty's fantasy and said. "Well, Master Chui, I am also a pirate now." "How can a pirate not drink?" Runty complained very dissatisfiedly. "Sister, you don't know how to drink," Peggy Wan asked. "I just enjoy this process, and I can give you wine," Runty said without hesitation. Xiaoqi smiled and poured juice for Robin, Runty, and Peggywan. In fact, Robin is completely ready to drink, but she doesn't seem to like drinking, preferring juice. As for Orgrim and Stussy, they took the wine glass handed by Xiaoqi. "You don't need to pay, right?" "I'm very poor now," Orgrim pretended to hesitate and asked. Xiaoqi smiled and said, "The Avalon Dark Bank started operations not long ago. I heard that you have successfully countered 2 waves of runs and financial blockades. Your Mr. Hammer has also started to open a bank. He also said don't have any money." "Gee, ha 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 ha, didn't you just put all your money in the bank? Naturally, you would have no money," Orgrim said with a laugh. "Okay, let me treat you as an old friend." Xiaoqi didn't care at all, and said with a smile. After a slight pause, she glanced at Runty and Peggy Wan again, and said, "I found that you like little ghosts very much." "That's right, it's a cute little devil." Orgrim waved his hand. If Runty hadn't been there, Orgrim wouldn't have taken Peggy Wan with him. Just like when he went out before, he didn't like to take that kid Lucci with him. "Xiao Shota is not interesting, how cute is the little loli?" "Good seedlings, take them with you and cultivate them," Orgrim explained again. "Strength is not a problem. The main reason is that Peggy Wan and Runty's vision is too small. After all, they were just orphans on Roaring Island before. Naturally, they have to. He often takes them out to see the world. Really, as the right arm of the former pirate king, the famous Pluto can certainly be regarded as the world." "Yeah? Alas, so many years have passed. Have you, who was still a newcomer back then, begun to train the next generation?" Xiaoqi said with some emotion. "Gee, ha 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 ha, I can't even talk about it, it's just fate that we happen to meet each other. I'm still young," Orgrim said with a smile. In this way, after chatting for a while, Xiaoqi also got some information from Orgrim that was difficult for her to understand. It's considered a wine expense. After chatting for a while, Xiaoqi asks so the famous Mr. Hammer, "What are you doing here? Are you looking for Lei to drink?" "I have nothing to do, why should I drink with that bad old man?" "Even if you want to drink, it must be done by a beauty like Sister Xiaoqi," Orgrim said with a smile. "Your mouth is getting sweeter and sweeter. If I were decades younger, I might chase you," Xiaoqi said with a smile. "Oh, that's such a pity," Orgrim also said with a smile. After a slight pause, Orgrim continued, "I am indeed looking for Rayleigh. I have something I want him to help me with. It's really strange that a big shot like you still has things that you can't handle. However, Rayleigh owes you a favor, and he must be willing to repay it. Of course, the premise is that he can come back," Xiaoqi said. Orgrim was stunned for a moment, then asked, "Isn't that guy not on the island? Where has he gone?" "He should still be on the island, but there has been no news for several days, and the phone bug can't reach him." Xiaoqi said this, but his expression was not worried at all. After taking a sip of wine, Xiaoqi continued, "I think that guy just has no money, so he went to other places to make money, right?" Orgrim had a toothache and couldn't help but said he won't give himself to sold. "It's not impossible. It's not like he has never done such embarrassing things," Xiaoqi said without surprise. At this moment, the door of the tavern was pushed open, and then this guy Rayleigh walked in with a newspaper in his hand and a pair of glasses hanging on the bridge of his nose, looking very slovenly. Then, he looked a little surprised and asked, "Huh? Orgrim? Why are you here?" Orgrim looked at him, his expression was also a little surprised, pointed at his neck and said, "You really made yourself a slave?" Riley reacted and touched his neck. There was a slave collar on it, but for some reason, it did not explode. His movements were neat and tidy. He raised his hand, pinched and pulled, and took off the collar. He threw it away with his backhand and threw it out the door. After a while, there was an explosion. "Ha ha ha ha, I picked up the newspaper on the way and was so absorbed in reading it that I didn't notice it." "Make you laugh," Riley said with a smile. Looking at his calm look, he completely felt like he was gay. "Don't be stupid." A sledgehammer breaks into pirates. Author, Zippo. Chapter 497. Newspaper? I was on the ship just now and didn't receive it. Is there any big news? What makes you so fascinated? Orgrim asked with a smile. Rayleigh walked to the table, took out his small wine bottle, then threw the newspaper to Orgrim and said, "It's not big news, it's just an acquaintance, just the news." "Acquaintance? Could it be that your Roger pirates are about to make a comeback?" Orgrim said jokingly. Then, he reached out and opened the newspaper. The Kuja pirates reappear, and the pirate Empress Boya Hancock's emperor hunts and destroys the country. "He really made a comeback, but not your Roger pirates," Orgrim murmured in surprise. "There has been no news about the Kuja pirates for many years. Perhaps the new generation of pirates no longer know that there once was such a famous pirate group on the sea. However, this newspaper opened everyone's memories and introduced the Nine Snakes pirates and Amazon Lily. Orgrim is no stranger to the Nine Snakes pirates. Although he has not come into contact with the pirate empress of the previous generation, he still knows a lot of basic information. So no surprise at all. On the contrary, he was surprised by Boya Hancock's generosity. She was worthy of being a woman who immediately ascended the throne of the king's Shishibukai after going to sea once. Her emperor's hunt actually went straight to a country destroying plunder. A small country in the first half of the Great Line was completely destroyed, and all the treasures in the royal family were taken away. In fact, a ship of the Nine Snakes pirates cannot contain the wealth of a country. And Hancock still ruthlessly committed this act of national destruction. It can be seen that she is also trying to establish her authority. The reputation of the Nine Snakes pirates has been established. In the original story, Orgrim didn't know how good Hancock's first wave of operations was, but her final bounty was not particularly high, which was only 80 million belly. Maybe the world government and navy have something in mind here. But this time, Hancock's behavior may be more cruel than in the original story. The naval base stationed in that country was directly destroyed, and everyone was turned into stone statues. As long as she did not remove her ability, there would be no one left alive. And the same thing happened in that destroyed country. Everyone turned into stone statues. Hancock, using his strength and beauty, interprets the meaning of powerful country on the stage. Perhaps because of her cruelty, in short, the world government and navy gave her a higher bounty than the original story. 320 million belly. That's because it's Hancock's first appearance, his first appearance. Otherwise, it may be higher. What a ruthless method, tisk tisk. Orgrim smacked his lips and said. What he was looking at was the frontal photo of Hancock. She was sitting on the throne of that country, leaning slightly to the left, with one hand on her left face, delicate and elegant. Her beautiful appearance can be seen at a glance. Her chin is slightly raised, which shows that her eyes and temperament are extremely arrogant. I have to say that this photo was taken very well, and I don't know who took it. Combining the arrogance of the Empress with the beauty, perfectly displayed. Perhaps soon, the title of the most beautiful woman in the world will begin to spread, right? Even Orgrim had to admit that just by looking at this photo, she's a little ready to move. Beauty is indeed a big killer. But at this time, Hancock still looks a bit childish. When she fully grows up in the future, will she be considered the best in the world? By then, I'm afraid she will be the best in the world. Even Queen Stussy is slightly inferior to her in terms of appearance. However, I don't know if it was an illusion, but Orgrim always felt that Hancock's photo looked familiar. Think about it carefully, including the movements and expressions, aren't they all the same as the posture I assumed on Mary Joa's void throne? What's happening here? Coincidence, right? Orgrim murmured. At the same time, Rayleigh also took a sip of wine and smacked his lips, although I knew at that time that one of the three sisters would sooner or later take up the flag of the Nine Snakes pirates. A new wave has set off on the sea, but I really didn't expect that Hancock would be so cruel. Is your first overseas mission to destroy a country? Almost catching up with you. It can't be compared, it can't be compared. My first appearance was just to break into a small naval base in the North Sea. Orgrim waved his hand and said. Is it because of hatred? Rayleigh said with some emotion. Orgrim shook his head and said, I don't think so. He probably wants to establish his authority, right? After all, I heard that Navy warships can now enter and leave the windless zone freely. Ah, that's it, I see. Do you want to show off Amazon Lily's prestige to intimidate the Navy who is about to make a move? Rayleigh nodded. Then, he didn't dwell on the matter anymore. Instead, he looked at Orgrim and asked, What are you doing here? Want to drink with a bad old man like me? How big do you think your face is? Can you make me come all the way to drink with you? Orgrim rolled his eyes and said. How about some respect for your seniors? Rayleigh joked with a smile. As I said, we are not really seniors between us, right? We've obviously fought against each other before. Orgrim was not willing to be just a generation below Rayleigh. Whispering sound, so, what is going on? Rayleigh asked. Something to do with her. Orgrim put the newspaper on the table, reached out and tapped Hancock's head on the photo, and said. Rayleigh looked at Orgrim in surprise, and then said, Isn't it? Have you fallen in love with this little girl? You old man, don't say it in such a vulgar way, okay? Orgrim cursed with a smile. After a slight pause, he nodded with a serious expression and said, Yes, I have a crush on her. Hiss, Rayleigh took a breath and then asked, what are you going to do? She is the captain of the Nine Snakes pirates. The Emperor's hunt this time was obviously very successful. Now, she may be the Emperor of Amazon Lily's generation. Got it? I won't tell you anything false. I'm going to try and see if I can get her to join my Warhammer pirates, or maybe, incorporate Amazon Lily into my system in the Evernight Sea of Avalon to enhance my power. Orgrim said in a deep voice. Are you kidding? Your territory is in the New World, and she is in the Windless Zone, or the Windless Zone in the first half of the Grand Line. How can you stretch your hands so long? Aren't you afraid that the Navy will get stuck on you? Rayleigh said without hesitation. But after he finished speaking, he saw a smile on Orgrim's lips and a funny look in his eyes. Rayleigh was stunned for a moment, and then he seemed to have thought of something. He slapped his hand on the head and said helplessly, that's right, you guy, you have been a big pirate for so long that I almost forgot that there is a retired old man in your family. Golden Lion Shiki. If you want to integrate Amazon Lily into the Warhammer Pirates system as a whole, there is no doubt that they cannot be allowed to stay in the Windless Zone. And if you want to move their Amazon Lily, you have to mention the big boss Shiji. I am afraid that he is the only one who has the ability to help Orgrim solve this problem in the shortest possible time. So, you want me to be the middleman? Riley asked. That's right, after all, your relationship with Amazon Lily is pretty good. Orgrim said with a smile. In fact, you're okay. Although I haven't asked, it seems that the three Hancock sisters are paying close attention to you, Rayleigh said with a smile. Orgrim didn't take it seriously, maybe there would be some attention. But depending on the distance of the relationship, Raleigh seems to be closer. How about it? Is that okay? Orgrim asked. Of course it's no problem, I'm just setting up a line for you, it's a piece of cake. Riley waved his hand and said. He didn't say anything about repaying the favor. After all, this matter is really a little thing. How can Orgrim's favor be so cheap? Maybe he spoke, Orgrim will accept it. But it also means that the relationship between the two is over. After all, Orgrim is not a fool. Orgrim didn't think there was anything wrong, and said with a smile, thank you very much. So, what do you want me to do? Rayleigh didn't pay attention to Orgrim's thanks and asked. The matter is of great importance. I think it would be best if we could make an appointment to meet, right? Do you want to see if she wants to come to the Shampoo Islands? Or, I might as well go to Amazon Lily myself. Orgrim thought for a while and said. It is definitely impossible to explain this matter with a phone bug. It is best to meet in person. Moreover, Orgrim seems to be looking forward to seeing Hanku. After all, photos are only two-dimensional, and the real person is three-dimensional. Just like back then, Orgrim was still somewhat jealous of Hancock, the pirate empress. However, back then, he felt that Hancock and he doesn't matter much. Greedy is greedy. But now, when it comes to business, Orgrim will naturally not act like an old pervert. Compared with Hancock's beauty, Orgrim what Mew pays more attention to is her strength, and the strength of Amazon Lily. Maybe, after integrating Amazon Lily, I should start a storm. Charlotte Lingling, you have to find a way to kill this dead old woman, and Newgate, the word strongest shouldn't have the suffix one, Orgrim thought in his heart. Now, the overall strength of the Warhammer pirates should be no less than that of the Whitebeard pirates, and may even be stronger. Compared with the Big Mom pirates, it is really strong. It's a big deal. If you drag Hancock to bed again, no, drag him to the boat, and take control of Amazon Lily's powerful warrior power. It doesn't seem to be a big problem to destroy the Big Mom pirates. Got it? However, some responses and preparations still need to be made, and even if things go smoothly this time, it will take some time to digest the power of Amazon Lily. It can be as short as 1 or 2 years, or as long as 3 to 5 years. Sometimes, there is some truth in the saying that one must first make peace with the outside world. If you are not stable yourself, why are you rushing to hit others? Of course, only when the initiative is in your own hands. Rayleigh also felt that it was best to discuss this kind of thing in person, so he responded, "Okay, then I'll help you arrange an appointment with Amazon Lily to come out to meet them." Amazon Lily is Daughter Island. No men are allowed to set foot on the island. Even Rayleigh has never been there. So of course he didn't think that Orgrim could be invited to Amazon Lily as a guest. At most, he could just help him make appointments with people from Amazon Lily, such as the new Empress, Boya Hancock. It doesn't even have to be on the Chambord Islands. Leave it to you, Coator Laule. Orgrim joked with a smile. A sledgehammer breaks into pirates. Author, Zippo. Chapter 498. Admiralty Marineford. At this time, he was in the office of Marshal Warring States. General Sakaski, Porisalino, Kuzan, Zifa, Garp, and Ahe are all here. And what they were discussing at this time was Boya Hancock, this ruthless woman. "Is there a way to solve?" Zifa asked. As soon as he finished speaking, the Warring States Marshal shook his head and said, "We have tried many times, but we can't unlock the effect of this ability. Petrification, it's really terrifying, even more powerful than Kuzan's freezing." What Warring States said is true. Kuzan's ice can be saved if she seizes the time and melts it with hot water. But Hancock's petrification cannot be solved unless she unlocks it herself. Otherwise it will be over. And just like Kuzan's ice seal, in the petrified state, any bump can cause fatal injuries. At the least, it is probably a disability. "Are you sure what the ability is?" Garp asked again. The Warring States Marshal shook his head, nodded again and said, "There are currently two possibilities. The first one is the animal type of phantom beast, the human fruit Medusa form. Medusa, the legendary succubus with human head and snake hair, her eyes can turn everything she looks into rock. In fact, Hancock had a rumor in Amazon Lily that the three sisters were cursed by Medusa, and anyone who saw their backs would be petrified." "What about the second one?" Great Staff Officer Ahe asked. "In the second case, Superman-type sweet fruit," Marshal of the Warring States period explained again. "Which is more likely?" Zifa asked. "It's hard to say, we don't have accurate information at all." Marshal of the Warring States period shook his head and said. "But no matter which ability it is, it seems to be very tricky." Advisor Ahe thought for a while and said. The others nodded in recognition. "As for Medusa, she can petrify you just by looking at you, which is of course very tricky. If it is a sweet fruit, match the one in the photo. Boya Hancock's beauty is probably more terrifying than Medusa's abilities. Let's not talk about the issue of ability. In short, this woman is very troublesome, ruthless, and extremely cruel. It was only her first time to go to sea, and she caused such a tragedy. If she is allowed to do it a few more times," Zifa said with a heavy tone. "You should know about the Emperor's hunt, right?" Marshal Warring States suddenly asked. The others nodded. In fact, Kuzan and the others didn't know much about it before, they just heard about it. But in the news of the world, Morgans was very responsible and told all this. It's clear. So they know it now. This is a ritual. The more ferocious and powerful she is, the more supported she will be when she returns to Amazon Lily. Therefore, this should be a special case, Marshal Warring States said. Listening to the meaning of his words, Sakaski was keenly aware of something wrong. His eyes became a little more serious and he asked, "Marshal, what do you mean? Do you want to excuse Amazon Lily?" Marshal Warring States glanced at Sakaski, and then said, "I am preparing to save people." The others were also stunned for a moment, not quite understanding what Marshal Warring States meant. This Boya Hancock is indeed cruel, but it can also be seen that her strength should be very powerful. Now, an entire country's citizens, along with our naval base, have all been petrified. We can't just leave it alone. We need to do our best to save them, Marshal Sengoku said softly. The rest of the people felt that this was true, but they always felt that Sengoku had other meanings. Moreover, haven't many methods been tried, but none of them worked? What can I say unless Boya Hancock unlock your own abilities, etc. Thinking of this, Senior Staff Officer Ahe seemed to understand something. He glanced at Sakazuki. I didn't expect this guy to be so keen on this kind of thing. So, we have to prepare to include her in the King's 7 martial arts, right? Is it appropriate for such a cruel person? Sakazuki suddenly asked in a deep voice. Yes, from the first sentence Sengoku said, Sakazuki had keenly noticed this sign. Sure enough, after listening to Sengoku's explanation, Sakazuki it was confirmed at once. Why does my marshal keep thinking about this kind of thing? Can't he use a tougher approach? The King's Shishibukai currently includes Crocodile, Moria, Bartholomew Bear, Jinbe, Doflamingo, and Red Hair. It just so happens that there is only one last character left to fill in. Boya Hancock is very suitable and can serve multiple purposes, Marshal Waring State said in a deep voice. The last time he was criticized by Wulaoxing, Wulaoxing asked him to quickly handle the affairs of the Kibutai under the king. After Marshal Waring States came back, there has been no suitable candidate. Now, a Boya Hancock jumped out. The Warring States Marshal thought she was very suitable. First, Hancock was strong enough, at least he performed very well. The real level is to be determined, but Amazon Lily's past generations the Emperor has never been weak. In short, Marshal Waring States is quite relieved in this regard. Second, Hancock is a pure rookie pirate and has almost no relationship with the other forces. This kind of person would be more secure to use during the Warring States period. The third point is that the Navy's technological breakthroughs can already threaten the essence of Amazon Lily. Sengoku believed that as long as he had a good grasp of the scale, he should be able to completely control Boya Hancock, the king of the Shishibukai. Just like Bartholomew Bear now. Controlling Boya Hancock is equivalent to controlling Amazon Lily's emperor. If their emperor is controlled, wouldn't it mean that Amazon Lily, a powerful pirate country, is in their hands? If possible, even when conquering the New World in the future, as a partial force, supporting the Navy, maybe it will have a very brilliant effect? It hasn't been long since Boya Hancock went to sea. Waring States, the naval marshal, had already planned many follow-up matters. If Orgrim hadn't been around and put so much pressure on Warring States, I don't know what he would have thought. Anyway, now, he seems to be thinking more. Now that the power of our navy can enter the windless zone, it is not impossible to save people. There is no need to let her be the king of the Shishibukai. I will lead the team to Amazon Lily and Nine Snake Island. If that Boya Hancock is unwilling to remove his powers, I will pull out all the pirates of Amazon Lily and bury him with him, and make her, the emperor, the last emperor of Amazon Lily, Sakazuki said coldly. Of course, he didn't say something, that is, even if Hancock is willing to unlock the ability, when he gets to Amazon Lily, he will destroy this evil pirate country. He, Sakazuki, does have this strength. After all, it is a rock-berry fruit. There is no doubt that the Sengoku guy sees further and has a longer-term plan. As for Sakazuki, he hopes to implement it directly one's own justice. It's hard to say which of the two is better. It mainly depends on the situation. You're right, Marshal Waring States unexpectedly recognized Sakazuki's statement. Sakazuki's eyes lit up, and just when he was about to continue saying something, Marshal Waring States continued, but Sakazuki, Your Majesty, the position of Shishibukai cannot be vacant forever. Although there is no urging from above, the pressure is still very high. We need to fill it up as soon as possible. So, now, except for Boya Hancock, who is the cleanest, I wonder who else is on the sea. is it suitable for this position? Don't look at the problem from one side. It is very simple to solve, Hancock. But sitting in your position, you are now an admiral of the Navy. You have to look at the whole situation and think about it. Do you understand? Sakazuki opened his mouth after listening to Marshal Sengoku's words, as if he wanted to say something. But he went through all the pirates in his mind and found that it seemed to be what Sengoku said. Except for Boya, apart from Hancock, there are indeed people who are suitable to be the king of the Shishibukai, but none of them have Hancock to be the king of the Shishibukai, which is in the interests of the Navy. For a moment, he hesitated. Marshal Waring State's words were also taken into his heart. Yes, he is now an admiral of the Navy. He needs to be more comprehensive in his work. Even Sakazuki is not willing to stop at the position of admiral of the Navy. In the future, it may be impossible for him to become a marshal of the Navy. And when you reach the position of marshal, you can't look at the problem one-sidedly. Seeing that Sakazuki stopped talking, the Warring States Marshal stopped grabbing him to continue his education. It has to be said that the old guy from the Warring States period is still very capable. During his tenure, he managed his generals obediently. Even Sakazuki is obedient. Looking away, Sengoku looked at the others and said, "That's pretty much it. I'm going to let Boya Hancock be the king of the Shishibukai. What do you think?" The others didn't have much objection. Hancock becomes the king of the Shishibukai, and can save the petrified navy and citizens. At this stage, he is also a more suitable candidate for the navy to take action. Perhaps if Sengoku makes arrangements, Amazon Lily can be used by the navy. In short, the advantages outweigh the disadvantages. There is no reason to disagree. But the question is, will she agree to join the Shishibukai? Kuzan asked. Marshal Waring States grinned and said, "She will agree, because there is no wind belt. It is no longer their natural barrier. This woman has created such a large battle this time. She is also asserting her authority over our navy. What does this mean? It means Amazon Lily has noticed this and understands the impact behind it." After a short pause, the Warring States Marshal continued, "The King's Shishibukai is also a favorable choice for them. The essence of this system, it's just cooperation, isn't it? No matter what, there is nothing wrong with giving it a try." Consultant Ahe also smiled and said. Marshal Waring States smiled and said, "Yes, there is nothing wrong with giving it a try, Porisalino." As soon as he finished speaking, Porisalino's expression turned bitter. "Isn't that right, sir? Everyone present has spoken, but I have been pretending to be a transparent person. Don't you understand what I mean by messing around? Why do you need to call my name at this time?" But the marshal is the man who controls his 5 insurances and 1 fund. Therefore, Porisalino did not dare to show any dissatisfaction, and said with a helpless expression, "Here, Marshal. This matter is left to you to arrange. You should find a way to contact Amazon Lily and Boya Hancock, and arrange for her to join the King's Shishibukai. After all, you have experience in this," Marshal Waring States said with a smile. Porisalino was helpless. "What experience do I have? The King's Shishibukai is not opened by my family. The red-haired one last time was arranged by me on the surface. What happened behind the scenes? Well, as a marshal, don't you have something in mind?" But the marshal had already spoken, and Porisalino could only nod helplessly and said, "Understood, Marshal. Well, work hard, and I'll give you field work allowance when I come back." Marshal Waring States smiled and said. Porisalino's eyes lit up, "If you say that, then I won't be sleepy anymore. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. A Sledgehammer Breaks into Pirates. Author, Zippo. Chapter 499. 9 Snake Island Amazon Lily. At this time, Hancock was sitting on his pet Salome in the palace hall. She has officially become the Emperor of Amazon Lily. The Emperor's hunting this time was also very successful. She destroyed a country and proved her strength to her own citizens. Coupled with her beauty, now, all the citizens of Amazon Lily have sincerely knelt at her feet. Hancock, who was only 18 years old, had already become the emperor of a country and a big shot with millions of lives in his hands. But at this moment, in front of her, Gilaliosa was still leaning on a cane and was saying something to her with a worried expression. "Snake Princess, you have gone too far this time and will anger the world government and navy. We, Amazon Lily, will be in danger," Gloriosa said worriedly. Hancock looked arrogant, raised his chin slightly, and said unhappily, "Are you questioning me? Questioning the Emperor of Amazon Lily? Captain of the 9 Snakes Pirates?" Shiji, Gloriosa seemed to want to say something else. "Enough. Everything I do is for Amazon Lily, and it is completely in line with the Emperor's hunting tradition. It demonstrates the power of Amazon Lily, and I have no fault at all," Hancock said in a very strong tone. Gloriosa was a little helpless. The matter was at this point, and she couldn't say anything else. After a slight pause, she said, "But, Snake Princess, maybe you can do this. It will also make the Navy understand that we are not easy to mess with. Maybe, they will take the initiative of King Shichibukai." "Shut up," Hancock's expression suddenly became gloomy. "I will never become that damn King Shichibukai, and I will never bow to those bastards from the Navy and the world government. Amazon Lily, there has never been such an emperor, there has never been one before, there will never be one now, and there will never be one in the future," Hancock said angrily. "Are you going to start a war with the world government and navy?" "Snake Girl," Gloriosa also asked angrily. "Your vision and structure are too small, mother-in-law," Hancock suddenly said. "Sister Huang, my mother-in-law is also here for Amazon Lily, please don't be angry," Sundasonia said softly next to Hancock. Hancock may not listen to what others say, but he is still very patient with his 2 sisters. She nodded slightly, and then her eyes became a little sharp. Looking at Gilaliosa, she said this time, "I am not only proving to the citizens of Amazon Lily how powerful I am, but also conveying the signal to the outside world." Gloriosa did not react, thinking that Hancock was talking about the Navy and the world government. Therefore, she said even more worriedly, "The more powerful you are, the more they will be afraid of us. Either you will become the king of the Shichibukai, or Amazon Lily will usher in a war." "Wrong," Hancock retorted in a deep voice. Before Gloriosa could speak, Hancock continued, "I am showing my power to the pirate emperor of the New World, do you understand? The Navy headquarters special recruitment, red-haired Shanks became the king of the Shichibukai. Since that guy from the Warring States period became the marshal, the Navy's power has been continuously increasing. The pirate emperors of the New World are not fools. They will not unable to feel it, they also need new power to fight against the Navy headquarters. I am this new power." Indeed, Gilaliosa's vision and structure have stayed in Amazon Lily and the Windless Zone. But Hancock has already begun to focus on the world at this time. "Do you want to gain the protection of the Yonko to resist the pressure from the world government and navy?" Gloriosa exclaimed. "The influence of the Yonko is indeed great, but just like the navy is unable to enter the New World, they are also unable to radiate their power outside the New World, to Amazon Lily," Gloriosa quickly explained. Hancock lay back and said arrogantly, "You are right, so I am preparing to bring Amazon Lily into the New World. Don't you remember what I told you before? We simply don't have that much resources and time," Gilaliosa said angrily. "We don't have it, but someone does." Hancock's lips curled up slightly and he spoke softly. "Who?" Gloriosa was stunned for a moment and said. "The Lord of the Night." Hosgarot Orgrim. A flash of light flashed in Hancock's eyes, and he said very confidently. Before Gloriosa could speak, Hancock continued looking at the four pirate emperors. Kaido is a little bit in a corner, and Charlotte Lingling is not worth mentioning, and the white beard has already shown its old age. Only the King of the Night, who is young and vigorous, possesses enterprising spirit, and the movements of the navy, he will not fail to see, nor will he be without ideas. The emperor in the concubine's body hunting is for him to see, to make him understand that I have enough value, and so does Amazon Lily. Gloriosa fell silent. Indeed, if it were Kazgarot Orgrim. While Gululiosa was thinking, Hancock's tone softened a little and said, the King of the Night is related to our three sisters, and we still owe him a favor. Based on this, if we express our intention to get closer, he shouldn't be dismissive. So, mother-in-law, could you please contact Layli on my behalf? But Hancock didn't even finish his sentence. The phone bug that Grilliosa was carrying suddenly rang. Raleigh Grilliosa took it out and looked at it, and said with some surprise. But soon, she calmed down again. It must have been because of the big incident Hancock had caused in the newspaper, which caught Riley's attention, so she called him to ask about it, right? That's good, I can talk to him about Orgrim. There was no need to avoid Hancock. Gloriosa directly answered the phone. Raleigh, Gloriosa called out. On the other side of the phone, Raleigh also said with a smile, we haven't contacted you for a long time, Gloriosa. Well, how did you contact me today? Is it because you saw the newspaper? Gloriosa asked with a smile. Roughly the same, Riley responded first, and then said directly, there is something I want to tell you. Us, Gloriosa murmured something strange, and then asked, what's the matter? What a big deal about your Amazon Lily? Raleigh smiled and said. Before Gloriosa could ask anything, Raleigh said again, Kazgarot Orgrim, that guy seems to be interested in your Amazon Lily. He wants to. I wonder if you have any ideas for cooperation with you. If possible, it would be best to meet and have an appointment. To be honest, Amazon Lily has not been having a good time recently, right? After all, the Navy's warships. Gloriosa was completely stunned and looked at Hancock in disbelief. Is it so powerful? You have just proven your strength on the front foot, and the back foot is just as you expected. The pirate emperor Kazgarot Orgrim is planning to cooperate with us? For a moment, she seemed to realize that she was getting old. No matter in terms of courage, style, vision, or size, she seemed to be unable to compare with Hancock. Hancock looks at the world, but he only sees the windless zone. Hancock also looked very surprised at this time. Of course she heard all these conversations. She thought she needed to take the initiative to contact the King of the Night, but unexpectedly, the King of the Night had the same idea as her. Before Gloriosa could speak, Hancock snatched the phone bug away and said to the phone bug, Raleigh. Hancock, Riley asked a little strangely. It's my concubine. Please tell me, where does the King of the Night need me to meet him? New World? Hancock said without hesitation. Riley smiled. They had not thought about it at this time, but they just made an intention. They even thought it was not impossible that Amazon Lily would think about it for 3 to 5 days. Why? At this point, he agreed to meet without hesitation? Because he had not decided on a place, Layli joked with a smile, it hasn't been agreed yet. Of course, if it's possible, how about you Amazon Lily, sample? Orgrim said he really wanted to see Daughter Island. Before Hancock could say anything, she heard the phone call yelling over there. Hello. Riley, you old bastard, don't smear my image. Listening to this voice, a smile appeared on the corner of Hancock's mouth, and he said to everyone's surprise, no problem, then stay at Amazon Lily, I will be ready. As soon as she finished speaking, Raleigh was completely confused. What's going on? I have such a good relationship with Amazon Lily, but they haven't even asked me to go up there once. Orgrim can be invited just by making a casual joke. Why? Because he is handsome. I, really, am not bad either. For a while, Rayleigh, who has been relying on his reputation to make a living, wandering among rich women and buyers, has some doubts about his own charm. But soon, Rayleigh reacted and responded quickly, oh, okay, no problem, we will go to Amazon Lily soon. Do you need me to send someone to greet you? Do you know the route? Hancock couldn't help but asked again. Rayleigh had a toothache. What kind of treatment is this? Still accepting? He said without hesitation, no, I know the way. After saying that, he hung up the phone directly. Then, he looked at Orgrim with some displeasure and said, "Are you very proud of yourself?" Gee ha 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 ha, Orgrim laughed a little proudly, looked at Rayleigh and said, "Who do you think I am? Move the ship over." Rayleigh. What the hell are you talking about? Why do you feel so unworthy of a beating? At the same time, Queen Stussy, who was chatting with Boss Yachi, frowned slightly. She knew very well that her man had never met that boy Hancock. There wasn't even any contact at all, otherwise he wouldn't have come all the way to find Laylee. But for some reason, Queen Stussy felt a great threat from Boya Hancock, whom she had never met. It's not like the feeling of beautiful maids like Brittany, nor is it like Monet. Just vaguely, intuitively, I felt that this woman named Boya Hancock might affect my status. Recalling the stunning face in the photo, even Stussy herself, as a top beauty, was a little moved. Orgrim. I have to think of a solution, Stussy whispered softly. Hancock is young, beautiful, and has a good figure. More importantly, compared to her, he will definitely feel fresh. These are all threats. But he is not without his advantages, such as his deep relationship with Orgrim. However, it is always necessary to be prepared first. A sledgehammer breaks into pirates. Author, Zippo. Chapter 500. On the other side, Hancock returned the phone bug to Grilliosa, with an undisguised smile of anticipation on Hancock's face, even a little excited. Gilaliosa was surprised and asked Snake Princess, "Amazon Lily has never allowed men to land on the island. This is the rule of the emperors of the past. Emperors of all dynasties. I am now the emperor of Amazon Lily. As for me, it is Amazon Lily's will. Throw away all the old things for me. When we enter the new world, we will usher in greater changes." "Don't stop talking nonsense to me," Hancock said very arrogantly. What did Grilliosa want to refute? But Hancock had no intention of listening to her. He waved his hand and said, "Don't get in the way here. Go get ready and use the highest standards to welcome the arrival of the King of the Night." Sanda Sonia and brother Mari Rude also laughed. They were also looking forward to meeting Orgrim. After all, they wanted to say thank you to him personally. Therefore, without waiting for Gilaliosa to react, the two sisters, one on the left and one on the right, grabbed Gilaliosa and took her out the door. "Sister Huang, leave it to us, and we will ensure that this matter is handled beautifully," Sanda Sonia said with a smile. Hancock nodded to his two sisters with satisfaction. After everyone in the palace left, Hancock excitedly rushed to Salome and hugged Salome. May rubbed her head vigorously, like a little girl, and said expectantly, "Salome, Lord Orgrim is coming. This is my first time to see him. I am so looking forward to it. He is the most powerful in the world. A man who is strong is beautiful. I'm going crazy. If I can get his favor, it will not only be my dream, but also the future of Amazon Lily." That's right, it's not just Orgrim who covets Hancock's body. Why doesn't Hancock covet his Orgrim? Power means beauty and handsomeness. This is the cultural tradition of Amazon Lily. Hancock, of course, the same is true for Cook. In her opinion, Kazgaro's Orgrim, like herself, is a combination of strength and beauty. But soon, Hancock calmed down again, murmuring a little worried about gains and losses. Said but I have such a humble past, Lord Orgrim knows very well. He knows that I was Marijo's slave. Is it really okay to have someone like me? The beautiful Hancock is a proud person, but also a person with low self-esteem. She may be able to hide it from others, but she can't hide it from Orgrim. At the same time, in the tavern on the Chambord Islands, Orgrim Rem drank the drink in one gulp and said without further ado, I think the Navy will take action. After all, Hancock is a candidate who meets the conditions of the King's Shishibukai. We can't let them take the lead. Let's go. Rayleigh, take us to Amazon Lily. The King's Shishibukai is now short of one person. If the Warring States period had not engaged in these messy operations, Orgrim might not have intervened in the overall composition of the King's Shishibukai. But now that he has done so, Orgrim naturally, I won't be polite to that guy from the Warring States period. I will immediately cut off your Shishibukai, the king, and take Hancock to the New World. As for how to replace the last Shishibukai, the king, and who to use. Sorry, then it has nothing to do with Orgrim and me. Just go ahead and give yourself a headache. That's fine. Rayleigh nodded and said. Orgrim looked at Queen Stussy and asked with a smile, will you come with me, your lady queen? Actually, Orgrim is still thinking about whether Queen Stussy will stay here waiting for him. If she stays here, it will be much more convenient for him. Maybe something will happen with Hancock? Think about it. It was a bit exciting to think about it. But it was obvious that Queen Stussy was not prepared to give him this opportunity to steal sex. Queen Stussy nodded without hesitation and said, go, of course I want to go. I haven't yet have you met the Emperor of Amazon Lily. If I don't go, who knows what things will happen to you. Huh. When Orgrim saw this, although he had some little regrets, he didn't stop anything. He nodded and said, okay, let's set off together. Bar. Without any delay, Rayleigh soon boarded Orgrim's ship, and the group left the Chambord Islands in a hurry. At the same time, in the Justice Port of Marine Headquarters, Marineford, Polo Salino also staggered onto his general's car. A warship also headed towards Nine Snake Island where Amazon Lily was. There was no delay on the way. In just a few days, Orgrims from the ship, Nine Snakes Island could already be seen. Standing on the deck, Orgrim asked Rayleigh beside him, I heard that you can cross the windless zone by freestyle swimming. Pretty much, it's not that difficult anyway, right? Rayleigh said with a smile. After he finished speaking, he seemed to have come to his senses again and said with a smile, sorry, I forgot that you can't swim. I always feel like, are you showing off? Orgrim said with some displeasure. Ha 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 ha, you obviously brought it up yourself, okay, Lila said with a smile. At this moment, Runty, a little lowly, shouted excitedly, wow, it's so big. Orgrim and others followed her line of sight and looked over. Sure enough, a huge sea king just poked its head out from under the sea. Then, it seemed to notice the small boat that had entered its territory, and suddenly he turned his head and looked at Orgrim and the others. There are countless big guys like this in every sea area in the windless zone, Rayleigh said with a smile. Therefore, Neptune Poseidon is very scary. This kind of creature is nothing to us, but if it attacks the island in clusters, it is indeed enough to destroy the world, Orgrim also said with some emotion. Do you know Aquaman's secret? Rayleigh was stunned for a moment and said, but soon he came to his senses and said, that's right, you are a big shot now. As for the mermaid princess, as if you don't know, Neptune's daughter, the White Star Princess, is the Sea King of this generation, Orgrim said very naturally. Rayleigh didn't know this. He only knew from the historical text that every few generations of the Neptune royal family on Fishman Island, there would be a princess who would awaken the king of the sea. Poseidon's ability has transformed into an ancient weapon that can destroy the world. Unexpectedly, this generation of mermaid princesses has already awakened. Sure enough, as Roger said, they left a little early. The appearance of the mermaid princess also represents something different from Sea King. This is the change of the times. But now, there are no signs of it. The confusing future makes Rayleigh somewhat expectant. Of course, at this time, he is a little bit surprised. He asked, "Aren't you interested in ancient weapons?" "I'm interested, but not very interested." "What's wrong?" Orgrim asked. "I thought you would take Princess White Star into your own hands." Riley smiled and said. "Gee ha 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 ha, Rayleigh, don't think of me so shamelessly, okay? I, Orgrim, am indeed very unscrupulous. If my relationship with Fishman Island was not good, I might do this kind of thing. But Fishman Island and Neptune are all friends. Not so despicable as to use a little princess as a bargaining chip for some ancient weapon." Orgrim laughed and waved his hands. As soon as he finished speaking, Runty exclaimed, "Coming, coming, that big guy is chasing us." Orgrim smiled and turned to look at the huge Neptune type that was chasing him. Then his aura suddenly exploded, and his overbearing domineering energy swept towards the Neptune type. The originally menacing Neptune type was hit by after the impact of Orgrim's overlord color, his huge body trembled. He wailed and without any hesitation, turned around and dived into the sea. Ready to go back and move. Soon, Orgrim's boat was approaching Amazon Lily's Nine Snake Island. At this time, there were many people standing there at the port of Nine Snake Island. Rayleigh had just informed them not long ago. The closer they got, the more Orgrim could take a clear look at the scene at the port. They are all women, and each of them looks very elite. Are they Amazon Lily warriors? The leading woman is tall and wearing a bright red cheongsam. Wearing a pair of red high-heeled shoes, she has long black hair. Her hairstyle is a Jifa style, and there are 9 snake earrings under her ears. She just stands there without any movement, but she can attract everyone's attention. All eyes were drawn to her. Yes, that person was none other than the Emperor of Amazon Lily, the future most beautiful woman in the world, Boya Hancock. "Sharp," Orgrim whispered softly. Because he found that Hancock's charm was really great. When he saw the real person at this time, he couldn't help but feel a little distraught. But Orgrim is a hero who emerged from the storm. After appreciating it for a while, I quickly calmed down. At the same time, Queen Stussy also walked out of the cabin, and she also saw Hancock's figure. Just one glance made me feel tingling and beautiful, as if she was the incarnation of this word. Stussy is also a very proud woman, very confident in her figure and appearance. But when facing Hancock, he still felt great pressure. Even she wants to get close to Hancock, it is an instinctive pursuit of beauty. The effect of sweet fruit. Stussy quickly regained her clarity and thought in her heart with some doubts. Her orientation is very normal. It is impossible to say that she was changed when she saw a beautiful woman. But, for a moment just now, she just wanted to. It felt like something happened to Hancock. Therefore, Stussy believed that this should be the ability of the sweet fruit. Most devil fruits have their own side effects. The side effects of the sweet fruit may be that they are no longer around all the time. Exuding charm. All men, women, old and young are welcome, right? Stussy didn't doubt that Hancock was doing this kind of thing deliberately. Because she felt that Hancock didn't have the guts and would be regarded as being hostile to Austria. Grimm's provocation. Orgrim is observing the people on Nine Snakes Island. Hancock is also observing Orgrim and the others. Strong, handsome, mighty, it's exactly as I imagined, Hancock thought with some excitement. Put aside any cultural and traditional aesthetics. From a purely aesthetic perspective, Amazon Lily people obviously appreciate Orgrim's strong man more. On the contrary, I have no interest at all in future Prince Charming types like Cavendish and Pretty Boys. Because they are a country of warriors and they admire strong and handsome people. and Orgrim is undoubtedly a man who fits Amazon Lily's aesthetic in every aspect. He is strong enough, powerful enough, and his appearance is very resolute and mighty. Fits perfectly with Amazon Lily. Of course, Orgrim was not aware of this at this time. Queen Stussy did not notice the sign. Soon, Orgrim's ship was anchored in the port of Nine Snakes Island, and then, with steady steps, he walked down the ship's ladder. Queen Stussy, on the other hand, demonstrated and swore her sovereignty, and followed him, holding Orgrim in her arms, never leaving.